Hi, this is Brian Fenton here with another My Town Media opinion piece that I've called the Age Verification Bill. This week, the Misinformation and Disinformation Bill was soundly defeated in the Senate. And in my view, the same should happen to the Online Safety Amendment or Social Media Minimum Age Bill, commonly referred to as the Age Verification Bill. This bill, as I see it, is just another attempt by stealth to foist on all Australians digital identity legislation, this time via a social media pathway. What makes this bill even more pernicious is that the ALP seems to have the full backing of the LNP, and when they only gave the public 24 hours to lodge submissions and the Senate just a few days to debate the bill, you know there is something not right here. It's to be noted that Facebook already has an age limit of 13 years to access its platform, and if they are notified of any underage users, they say that they will close the account immediately. They also offer lots of advice to parents and primary carers on how to monitor Facebook use by minors. And whilst controls are already in place and we may argue their effectiveness, it's very hard to definitively regulate access. This legislation, though, is another attempt to regulate that access. The government could, of course, legislate to force guardians to monitor a minor's social media use, or even criminalise any minor under 13 who creates an account unlawfully, but that action would be politically unpalatable and viewed as Orwellian. Keep in mind, though, that in Australia, the minimum age of criminal responsibility is 10 years, so they could legislate if they wanted to, but it would be political suicide for any government to go down that route. Instead, they are happy to allow offshore entities to do what the government won't do or probably knows what they morally shouldn't do. They tried to do it with the Misinformation and Disinformation Bill, but it was rejected outright, and now they are trying a similar approach with this legislation. This time, though, it's trying to censure children, removing their right to information and deny them freedom of speech and their ability to be influenced by or be influencers themselves. Remember that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 19, applies to everyone. It says, everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression, and this right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. So what is really going on here? The legislation, if it goes through, is effectively a restriction on anyone, irrespective of age, who wants to use social media. The number 16 is really just an arbitrary number. Children here are being weaponised to force all users to formally register a digital identity, and we should not be fooled into thinking otherwise. But let me raise another broader question here. The Annotated Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia by Quick and Garran, in their constitutional reference compendium on page 795 says, every power alleged to be vested in the national government or any organ thereof must be affirmatively shown to have been granted. There is no presumption in favour of the existence of a power. On the contrary, the burden of proof lies on those who assert its existence to point out something in the Constitution which either expressly or by necessary implication confers that power. Just as an agent claiming to act on behalf of his principal must make out by positive evidence that his principal gave him the authority that he relies on. Quick and Garran go on to say, the search for the power will be conducted in a spirit of strict exactitude. And if there be found in the Constitution nothing which directly or impliedly conveys that power, then whatever the executive or legislature of the national government or both of them together may have done in persuasion of its existence must be deemed null and void, like the act of any other unauthorised agent. So let me ask this question. Do you think our government has an assumed right or power to push through legislation that effectively forces all Australians to be digitally verified? The answer, of course, is no, without first seeking authority from the people on such a matter of great importance. As one commentator said, under what supposed authority did the government instigate this intended censorship and digitisation of the Australian people, given that we, the Australian people, have never given any government this authority? Now, that's a good question, and it deserves an answer from all of our politicians. It's to be noted that the Australian Constitution does not explicitly protect freedom of expression. However, the High Court has held that an implied freedom of political communication exists as an indispensable part of the system of representative and responsible government created by our Constitution. It operates as a freedom from government restraint rather than a direct right given to individuals. The question needs to be asked, therefore, whether this legislation is intended to deprive or impinge on any person's implied right to freedom. Now, the Liberal and National Party and other Senate crossbenchers need to answer that question. They also need to realise that we have a federal election on our doorstep, and anyone entertaining legislation that denies people freedom of speech is treading on very shaky ground, and they should be made aware of the political risk. It's one thing to encourage moral accountability, but to legislate and craft a mechanism to control free thinking and free expression has the sniff of danger all over it. Pauline Hanson correctly observed, this is a dangerous step towards greater government control over every part of our lives, to force Australians into a system by requiring every adult to go through an identity and age verification process just to functionally use the internet. Now, is that what you want? Or should such a massive intervention be a case of having a referendum to seek the will of the people? As I said earlier, when the public was given just 24 hours to make submissions on this bill and the Senate just a few days to debate the bill, you know the ALP and the LNP are up to no good and should be called to account. Thanks for watching, and remember, the things that appear are not always as they seem. Bye.